The sky above Seoul turned black at exactly 3 in the afternoon, stood at the window of the military command center and watched as 10,000 ships blocked out the sun. Each ship was massive, shaped like a blade, and covered in dark metal that seemed to eat the light around it. The Draconian Armada had arrived. Was 52 years old. He had spent 30 years in the military. He had seen many terrible things in his life, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Nothing could prepare any human for the sight of an alien invasion fleet covering their sky like a death shroud. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission," said Captain Park from her station. She was young, only 28, but she was the best communications officer in the entire Korean military. Her hands did not shake as she worked the controls. Her voice did not tremble, admired her courage. "Put it through," said. The main screen flickered to life. A creature appeared on it. The Draconian was tall and covered in scales that shimmered between purple and black. Its eyes were yellow with slit pupils like a snake. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical, translated by some device they could not see. "Primitive species of the third planet," the Draconian said. "I am fleet commander of the Draconian Armada. Your world has been selected for harvest. You have 72 hours to surrender your planet completely. If you do not surrender, we will burn your cities to ash. We will boil your oceans. We will crack the very crust of your world until nothing remains but dust and memory. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning." The screen went dark. The room was silent. Everyone stood frozen, processing what they had just heard. Harvest. The word hung in the air like poison. What did these creatures want to harvest? Resources, land, or something far worse? Turn to face his officers. Contact every military base on Earth. Contact every government. Tell them what we just heard. We have 72 hours. The next hours were chaos. World leaders argued and shouted at each other through video calls. Some wanted to surrender immediately. They said fighting was useless against such advanced technology. Others wanted to launch nuclear weapons at the fleet. A few simply cried. But did not cry. He did not shout. He sat in his command chair and he thought. He thought about his wife, who was at home in their small apartment. He thought about his daughter, who was studying medicine at university. He thought about all the people on Earth who were looking up at those ships right now, wondering if they would live to see another sunrise. "What do we know about these Draconians?" asked. Lieutenant, the intelligence officer, pulled up files on his tablet. "Not much, sir. According to the transmissions we intercepted last year from deep space, the Draconians are an ancient species. They have conquered over 40 planets in their history. No species has ever successfully resisted them. Their technology is at least 500 years ahead of ours." "No species has ever resisted them," repeated slowly. "That does not mean no species ever will." Looked up from her station. "Sir, what are you saying?" "I am saying that we fight," said. "I am saying that we do not surrender our planet to creatures who see us as nothing more than crops to be harvested. I am saying that if we are going to die, we die standing on our feet, not kneeling before monsters." The room changed. Something shifted in the air. Fear was still there, yes. Fear would always be there. But now there was something else too, something that burned like fire in the chest. Pride, defiance. The stubborn human refusal to accept defeat. Over the next 70 hours, humanity prepared for war. It was not organized. It was not pretty. Countries that had been enemies for decades suddenly found themselves working together. Russian generals shared intelligence with American commanders. Chinese scientists worked alongside Japanese engineers. Old hatreds meant nothing when extinction stood at the door. Coordinated the Asian defense from Seoul. He moved military assets into position. He organized civilian evacuations into underground shelters. He made sure that hospitals had enough blood and medicine. He did not sleep. He could not sleep. Stayed by his side the entire time. She translated communications from other countries. She tracked the Draconian ships as they moved slowly into attack formation around Earth. She brought coffee when he forgot to eat and reminded him that he needed his strength. "You should rest," she said on the second night, "even for an hour." "I will rest when this is over," said, "one way or another." On the third day, at exactly 3 in the afternoon, the Draconians demanded humanity's answer. Every screen on Earth showed the same image: Fleet Commander, his yellow eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Your time has ended," Primitives said. "What is your answer, surrender or death?" Had been chosen to speak for Asia. He stood before the camera in his worn uniform, his gray hair uncombed, his eyes red from lack of sleep. He looked like an old man who had been beaten by life. But when he spoke, his voice was steady and strong. "This is our answer," said. "We will not surrender. We will not kneel. This is our home. This is our Earth. If you want it, you will have to take it from our cold, dead hands. And I promise you, you will pay for every inch of ground in blood." He paused. Behind him, on screens around the world, similar messages played. Leaders from every nation, speaking in their own languages, delivering the same message of defiance. Humanity stood united for the first time in its history. "You think we are primitives," continued. "You think we are weak because we have not traveled between stars, but you do not know us. You do not know what humans are capable of when we are pushed to the edge. You have made a terrible mistake coming here, and you will learn that mistake very soon." Laughed. The sound was horrible, like metal scraping against metal. "Foolish creatures, you have chosen death, so be it." The transmission ended. She looked back at him. "Well," said quietly, "I suppose we will find out what humans are really made of." Outside, the Draconian ships began to descend toward Earth, their weapons glowing with deadly light. The invasion had begun, and humanity, for better or worse, had chosen to fight. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous. It floated in the empty space between 3 star systems, a massive station built from white metal and blue crystal. Inside, representatives from over 200 species sat in a circular arrangement, all facing the central platform where the day's business was conducted. Ambassador of the Empire leaned back in his floating chair. He was a tall creature with 4 arms and skin the color of rust. His species had been part of the Galactic Council for over 6,000 years. They had seen many things in that time: wars, plagues, the rise and fall of countless civilizations, but today's entertainment promised to be special. "The Draconians have begun their assault on the primitive world," announced the council speaker, a being made entirely of light. "We will now display the live feed from the harvest." The center of the chamber shimmered and a massive holographic display appeared. It showed Earth from space, a beautiful blue and green sphere wrapped in white clouds. Around it, the Draconian Armada moved into attack position, their blade-shaped ships glinting in the light of the distant sun. "Such a lovely planet," said Ambassador of the Collective. She was insect-like, with compound eyes that reflected hundreds of tiny images. "It is a shame the inhabitants chose to resist. The harvest would have been much cleaner if they had simply surrendered." "Primitives always resist," said with a dismissive wave of one of his 4 hands. "They do not understand the natural order of things. The strong consume the weak. It has always been this way. It will always be this way." The display showed Draconian landing ships descending through Earth's atmosphere, thousands of them like black rain falling from the sky. On the ground, the primitives fired their simple weapons: missiles, bullets, chemical explosives, such basic technology, such hopeless resistance. "How long do you think it will take?" asked. "I have heard the Draconians are efficient, but this planet has a large population." 3 days at most," said confidently. "The Draconians have done this 40 times before. They know exactly how to break a species. First, they destroy the major population centers. Then they hunt down the survivors in the rural areas. By the end of the week, this Earth will be nothing but an empty husk, its resources stripped and its people processed. The council watched with mild interest as the invasion continued. Some ambassadors placed bets on how long the resistance would last. Others discussed trade agreements and border disputes, barely paying attention to the slaughter on the screen. This was normal for them. They had seen it many times before. But then something strange happened. The feed flickered. Static filled the display for a moment before the image returned. When it did, something had changed. The Draconian ships were no longer in organized formation. They were scattered, moving erratically, as if confused or afraid. "What is happening?" the council speaker asked. "Enhance the feed." The display zoomed in on one of the Draconian battleships. It was massive, over 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could crack a moon in half. But something was wrong with it. The ship was shaking, its hull rippling like water. And then before the eyes of 200 species, it simply came apart. Not exploded, not destroyed by weapons. It just dissolved, breaking into smaller and smaller pieces until nothing remained but dust. The council chamber went silent. "That is impossible," whispered. "Draconian ships are built from hardened plasma steel. Nothing can dissolve them like that. Nothing." More ships began to fall. They dropped from the sky like dying insects, their systems failing, their hulls crumbling. The feed showed Draconian soldiers on the ground, firing their weapons at something the cameras could not see. Then they started to fall too. They collapsed where they stood, their bodies twitching and convulsing before going still. "Are the primitives using chemical weapons?" asked, her compound eyes wide with shock. "The Draconians are immune to all known chemical and biological agents," the speaker said. "This is something else, something we have never seen before." The display flickered again. This time, a human face appeared. It was a male, young, with dark hair and tired eyes. He was wearing some kind of military uniform covered in dirt and what looked like blood. When he spoke, his voice was calm but heavy with exhaustion. "This is Ambassador Lee Minu of Earth," he said. "I am transmitting this message to any species listening in the galaxy. The Draconian invasion has failed. Their fleet is being destroyed. Their soldiers are dying. We did not want this war. We did not ask for this war, but we will finish it." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "To any other species thinking about attacking Earth, I have one message: do not come here. Do not threaten us. Do not test us. You will not like what you find." The screen flickered one last time. Static filled the display, and then there was nothing. Complete silence. No transmissions from Earth. No signals from the Draconian fleet. Just empty space where 10,000 warships had been only hours before. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Ambassadors shouted questions. Technicians tried desperately to restore the feed. Military advisors demanded explanations, but there were no explanations. There was only confusion and fear. "Send a probe," demanded. "We need to know what happened." A probe was launched toward Earth. It would take 3 days to arrive at faster-than-light speed. 3 days of waiting. 3 days of uncertainty. When the probe finally arrived, it found nothing. The Draconian fleet was gone, not destroyed in the traditional sense. There was no debris field, no wreckage floating in orbit, no evidence that 10,000 ships had ever been there at all. It was as if the entire armada had simply vanished. The probe scanned Earth's surface. The planet looked normal. Cities stood intact. Oceans sparkled blue under the yellow sun. There were signs of battle damage in some areas, but nothing compared to what a full Draconian assault should have caused. And there were no Draconians anywhere. Not a single body, not a single piece of equipment, not a single trace. "They must have retreated," said, though her voice lacked conviction. "The Draconians realized the planet was not worth the cost and—" "The Draconians do not retreat," said quietly. "In 6,000 years they have never retreated from anything. Never." The council debated for days. Some believed the entire incident was a hoax, some kind of primitive trick. Others thought the Draconians had encountered a hidden weapon and had been forced to fall back and regroup. A few suggested that Earth was protected by some older, more powerful species that had intervened. But no one suggested the truth. No one even considered the possibility that the primitives, with their simple technology and their short, had somehow destroyed the most feared military force in the galaxy. Because that was impossible. That could not be. The natural order of things did not allow for such outcomes. And so the council did what councils always do when faced with uncomfortable truths. They ignored it. They filed reports. They held meetings. They moved on to other business. Earth was forgotten. A strange incident, yes. A mystery, certainly, but nothing more than that. The primitives were no threat to anyone. They could barely travel to their own moon. They were not worth worrying about. This was a mistake. The greatest mistake the Galactic Council had ever made, but they would not understand that for several more years. Until the survivors arrived. The human ship was small and ugly. It looked like it had been built from scraps of metal welded together by children. The Galactic Council security forces almost destroyed it before they realized it was sending a diplomatic signal. General stood at the front of the ship as it docked with the Council station. She was 60 years old with short gray hair and a face carved from stone. She had fought in the Draconian invasion. She had watched her soldiers die. She had seen things that would haunt her dreams for the rest of her life, but she had survived, and now she had a job to do. "Are you ready?" asked her aide, a young man named. He was only 25, too young to have fought in the invasion, but he was smart and brave and loyal. Trusted him. "I have been ready for 3 years," said. "It took us that long to build a ship that could reach this station. 3 years of work just to deliver a warning that these fools will probably ignore." The airlock opened with a hiss. On the other side stood a group of alien security officers, their weapons drawn. They were tall and rust-colored with 4 arms. They looked at the humans with a mixture of curiosity and contempt. "You will follow us," the lead officer said. "The council has agreed to hear your message. You will have exactly 10 minutes to speak. Any aggressive action will result in your immediate termination." Smiled, it was not a friendly smile. "Lead the way." The council chamber was even more impressive in person than the images they had seen. Counted at least 200 different species, all watching her with their various eyes and sensors. She felt like a mouse that had wandered into a room full of cats. But was not a mouse, and she had not come here to be afraid. She walked to the central platform and stood straight and tall. Stood beside her, holding a tablet with translation software. Around them, the whispers of hundreds of alien voices filled the air. "Speak, primitive," the council speaker said. The being of light floated above the platform, looking down at the humans like a god examining insects. "Why have you come here?" Took a deep breath. "I am General of the Earth Defense Force. I have come to deliver a warning to the Galactic Council and all its member species." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Some of the aliens did not even try to hide their amusement. A primitive delivering a warning to the galaxy. How absurd. How entertaining. Waited for the laughter to die down. When it did, she continued. 3 years ago, the Draconian Armada invaded Earth. 10,000 ships, 2 million soldiers. They expected to harvest our planet in a matter of days. "Yes, we remember," said Ambassador from his floating chair. "A most interesting incident. We were never able to determine exactly what happened. Would you care to enlighten us?" "The Draconians are dead," said simply. "All of them, every ship, every soldier, every single one." The chamber went silent. Not the silence of disbelief, but the silence of shock. Evan's confident expression faltered for a moment. "That is impossible," said Ambassador. "The Draconians were the most powerful military force in the galaxy. No primitive species could destroy them completely." And yet we did, said. I am not here to explain how. That is our business, not yours. I am here to warn you. Do not threaten Earth. Do not attack Earth. Do not send your ships or your soldiers or your probes anywhere near our system, because if you do, you will share the Draconians' fate. The laughter returned, louder this time. Some of the aliens slapped their appendages together in mockery. Others called out insults in their native languages. The translation software and tablets struggled to keep up. You dare threaten us? The council speaker asked. You, who cannot even travel faster than light. You, whose entire civilization is younger than some of the buildings on this station. You dare stand before the assembled might of the galaxy and threaten us. Did not flinch. I am not threatening you, I am warning you. There is a difference. A threat implies that we want to fight. We do not. We want to be left alone. We want to live on our planet in peace. But if you force us to fight, we will, and you will lose. Leaned forward in his chair. Perhaps you destroyed the Draconians through some trick, some hidden weapon or lucky circumstance. But that does not mean you could defeat the combined forces of the Galactic Council. We have ships that could crack your planet in half. We have weapons that could sterilize your entire system in hours. You are nothing compared to us. The Draconians thought the same thing, said quietly. They do not think anything anymore. Enough of this, said another ambassador, a creature made of living metal. This is a waste of time. The primitives are clearly delusional. They probably believe their own mythology. Some species do that, you know. They convince themselves they are special, chosen by their gods, destined for greatness. It is sad, really. Turn to face the metal creature. I watched the Draconians land on my planet. I watched them march toward our cities with weapons that could level mountains, and then I watched them die. Not in battle, not from our weapons, they just died. Their bodies fell apart. Their ships crumbled to dust. And when it was over, there was nothing left. Nothing at all. She looked around the chamber, meeting as many alien eyes as she could. I do not expect you to believe me. I would not believe me either if I had not seen it with my own eyes. But I am telling you the truth. Earth is not like other planets. There is something there, something old and powerful and hungry. We have learned to live with it. You will not be so lucky. What are you talking about? Asked. What is this something you speak of? Hesitated. She had discussed this with the other generals before leaving Earth. They had agreed that the full truth was too dangerous to share. The galaxy was not ready to hear it. Perhaps it would never be ready. Call it a defense system, finally said. Call it a guardian, call it whatever you want. But understand this, Earth protects its own, always has, always will. The Draconians learned that lesson. I hope you are smart enough to learn from their mistake. The council speaker flickered with what might have been anger. Your warning has been heard, primitive. You may go now. Return to your little planet and your primitive lives. The Galactic Council has no interest in Earth. It is worthless to us. Nodded slowly. Good, keep it that way. She turned and walked toward the exit. Fell into step beside her, his face pale but his posture steady. Do you think they listened? Asked quietly. No, said. They did not listen. They never do. Powerful beings do not listen to warnings from those they consider beneath them. It is their nature. Then why did we come? Stopped and looked back at the chamber one last time. The aliens had already moved on to other business, dismissing the humans as an amusing distraction. We came because we had to try, she said. We came so that when the next invasion happens, and it will happen, we can say that we warned them. We can say that we gave them a chance. We can say that whatever happens next is not our fault. Was quiet for a moment. Do you think anyone will listen eventually? Smiled, but it was a sad smile. Someone will, after they lose their fleet, after they bury their dead, after they realize that we were telling the truth the whole time. Someone will listen. They always do. The only question is how many have to die before that happens. They boarded their ugly little ship and began the long journey home. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued its business, confident in its power, certain of its superiority. The warning had been delivered. It had been ignored. And now all that remained was to wait for the consequences. 5 years had passed since General delivered her warning to the Galactic Council. 5 years of peace for Earth. 5 years for humanity to rebuild, to grow stronger, to prepare for what they knew was coming. Commander stood in the New Earth Defense Command Center, buried deep beneath the mountains of Provence. He was 43 years old, with sharp eyes and a calm voice that never wavered, even in crisis. The old command center in Seoul had been destroyed during the Draconian invasion. This new one was built to survive anything. "Sir," said Lieutenant Han, his operations officer, "we have incoming contacts, a lot of them." Walk to the main display. The holographic screen showed Earth and the surrounding space for several million kilometers. Red dots were appearing at the edge of the display, more and more with each passing second. "How many?" asked. 15,000 ships, sir, and counting." Nodded slowly. He had expected this. Everyone had expected this. The Council had ignored the warning about Earth. Now some ambitious species had decided to test the primitives and claim whatever secrets they possessed. "Have they identified themselves?" "Yes, sir. They are broadcasting on all frequencies. They call themselves the Empire." Remembered from the reports. Ambassador, the rust-colored creature with 4 arms who had mocked General at the Council. His species controlled over 40 star systems and had one of the largest military forces in the galaxy. They were known for their arrogance and their brutality. "Put their transmission on the main screen," ordered. The display flickered and Ambassador's face appeared. He was wearing ornate armor that gleamed like polished copper. Behind him, the bridge of a massive warship stretched into the distance. "Primitives of Earth," said. His voice was filled with contempt. "I am Ambassador of the Empire. Your planet has been claimed by imperial decree. You will surrender immediately and allow our forces to land without resistance. If you refuse, we will destroy your cities one by one until you comply." Waited until the transmission ended. Then he turned to, "Are all defense systems active?" "Yes, sir. The grid has been fully operational since this morning." "Good," pressed a button on his console. "This is Commander of Earth Defense Command. Our answer to your demand is no. We will not surrender. Leave our system now or face the consequences." He did not wait for a reply. He knew what the reply would be. They did not negotiate with species they considered inferior, and they considered every species inferior. "Sir," said, her voice tight, "the fleet is advancing. They will reach weapons range in approximately 2 hours." Sat down in his command chair. "Then we have 2 hours to wait. Make sure all civilian evacuation procedures are complete. I want every city emptied and every shelter sealed." The next 2 hours were tense. Watched the red dots move closer and closer to Earth on the display. 15,000 ships, more than the Draconians had brought. They were not taking any chances. Neither was Earth. When the fleet entered the outer boundary of Earth's defense grid, nothing happened at first. The ships continued their advance, their confidence unshaken. Probably thought the humans were bluffing. He probably thought their warning was empty. He was wrong. The first ship to fall was a cruiser on the edge of the formation. One moment it was flying in perfect formation, its shields at full power. The next moment its shields flickered and died. Then its hull began to change. The metal twisted and warped, as if something was eating it from the inside. The ship crumpled like paper in a fist and then simply collapsed into dust. "What is happening?" His voice came through the communication channel. All pretense of superiority was gone. Now there was only confusion and the beginning of fear. More ships began to fall. Not one by one, but dozens at a time. Their shields failed. Their hulls dissolved. Their crews died where they stood, their bodies falling apart like wet sand. The formation broke as surviving ships tried to flee, but there was nowhere to run. The effect spread like a plague, jumping from ship to ship, unstoppable and absolute. Watched the display without expression. The red dots were disappearing, vanishing faster than the system could track. 15,000 ships, millions of soldiers, all gone in less than an hour. "Sir," said quietly, "Ambassador's flagship is still operational. It appears to be trying to retreat." "Let it go," said. Looked at him in surprise. "Sir." "Let it go," repeated. "Someone needs to survive. Someone needs to tell the rest of the galaxy what happened here. Let be that someone." His flagship jumped to faster-than-light speed and vanished from the display. The last surviving ship of 15,000. Behind it there was nothing. No debris. No wreckage. No bodies. Just empty space where an invasion fleet had been minutes before. Stood up from his command chair. "Begin recovery operations. I want teams scanning for any surviving enemy personnel or equipment." "Sir, I do not think there will be any survivors." "I know, but we need to confirm it. We need records. We need evidence." He paused. "And we need to be sure." The recovery teams found nothing, just as expected. The fleet had been completely consumed. Not destroyed, consumed. There was a difference. 2 days later, Ambassador appeared before the Galactic Council. He was alone. His armor was dull and dirty. His 4 arms hung limply at his sides. He looked like a creature who had seen something beyond his understanding, something that had broken him at a fundamental level. "What happened?" the council speaker demanded. "Where is your fleet?" His voice was barely a whisper. "Gone, all gone, 15,000 ships, 3 million soldiers gone." "Gone where? Did the humans destroy them? How?" "I do not know," said. "I do not know. We entered their system, we approached their planet, and then our ships started dying, not from weapons, not from anything we could see or measure. They just died, dissolved, vanished." He looked up at the council, his yellow eyes empty. "The humans warned us. Generals stood in this very chamber and warned us not to attack Earth. We laughed at her, we mocked her, and now 3 million of my people are dead because we did not listen." The council chamber was silent. No one laughed now. No one mocked. "What do they have?" asked. "What kind of weapon can do this?" "I do not think it is a weapon," said slowly. "I think it is the planet itself. There is something wrong with Earth, something unnatural, something hungry. The humans have learned to live with it. We cannot." He fell silent. There was nothing more to say. Back on Earth, Commander stood at the surface entrance to the command center. The sun was setting over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. The air was clean and cool. Birds sang in the trees. It was beautiful, peaceful, normal. Lieutenant joined him. "Sir, the council is meeting in emergency session. Our monitoring stations are picking up fragments of the discussion. It sounds like they are finally taking our warnings seriously." "Good," said. "Maybe they will leave us alone now." "Do you think they will?" Watched the sunset for a long moment before answering. "Some will, the smart ones. The ones who understand that there are things in this universe more powerful than weapons and technology." He shook his head slowly. "But there will always be others. Arrogant fools who think they can succeed where others failed. Greedy empires who want our secrets. We will never be truly safe." "Then what do we do?" "We keep doing what we have always done," said. "We live our lives, we protect our home, and when they come, we let Earth do what Earth does best." The sun sank below the horizon. Darkness spread across the sky, and the stars came out, cold and distant and watching. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning to fear a small blue planet on the edge of nowhere. And Earth waited, patient and eternal, for the next time someone would make the mistake of threatening its children. 10 years after the invasion, the galaxy finally received the answer it had been seeking. But the truth was worse than anyone had imagined. Professor Shin was 78 years old when she agreed to tell the story. She had been part of the original research team that discovered the truth about Earth during the Draconian invasion. For a decade, she had kept silent, bound by oaths of secrecy and a deep fear of what might happen if the knowledge spread too far. But now she was dying, and the galaxy deserved to know. The interview was conducted by a neutral species called the Keepers of Knowledge. They were ancient beings dedicated to preserving the history of all civilizations. They had no political interests, no military ambitions. They simply collected truth and stored it for eternity. Professor Shin sat in her small house looking out at the sea. The keeper who interviewed her appeared as a floating sphere of silver light, recording everything she said. "Tell us," the keeper said, "tell us what Earth really is." Professor Shin was quiet for a long moment. Then she began to speak. "It started with the fossils," she said. "For centuries, humans found fossils of creatures that no longer existed. Dinosaurs, giant insects, massive sea creatures. We thought they died from asteroid impacts and climate change, natural disasters, but we were wrong." She took a sip of tea with trembling hands. "When the Draconians invaded, our scientists noticed something strange. The alien bodies were decomposing too quickly, far too quickly. Within hours of death, there was nothing left. No bones, no tissue, nothing at all. At first, we thought it was some biological process unique to their species. But then we tested our own dead, humans who had died in the fighting." "And what did you find?" the keeper asked. "The same thing, bodies decomposing at impossible rates, but only after death. Living tissue was unaffected, only the dead were consumed." She paused. "That is when we started asking the right questions. Not how are we killing them, but what is killing them." Professor Shin turned to face the silver sphere. "Earth is not a planet, not in the way you understand planets. Earth is alive. The entire planet is one massive organism. The soil, the rock, the water, the air, everything down to the molten core. All of it is connected, all of it is aware, and all of it is hungry." The keeper was silent for a moment. "How is this possible?" "We do not know exactly. Our best theory is that Earth was seeded billions of years ago by something from outside our galaxy. Something that wanted to grow, something that needed to feed. It buried itself deep in the young planet, and slowly, over billions of years, it became the planet. Every atom, every molecule, all of it is part of the organism. But humans survive on Earth. All of Earth's native life survives. How?" Professor Shin smiled sadly. "Because we are part of it. Every living thing on Earth carries a genetic marker, a signature that the organism recognizes as its own. We are not separate from Earth. We are cells in its body. The trees, the animals, the insects, even the bacteria, we are all part of the same vast creature. It protects us because we are part of it. And those who are not part of it. Our food," the word hung in the air. "The organism does not attack immediately. It studies first. It learns. It waits to see if the new arrivals might be useful somehow. But eventually, always, it feeds. The Draconians lasted 3 days before the organism decided they were a threat and consumed them. The lasted less than an hour. The organism is getting faster, smarter, more efficient." The keeper processed this information. "Are humans aware of this on a conscious level? Do you feel connected to the planet?" "No, not consciously. But sometimes in dreams we see things. Strange visions of vast dark spaces and endless hunger. Ancient memories from when the organism was young. Most humans dismiss these as nightmares, but they are not nightmares. They are glimpses of what we really are." Professor Shin stood and walked to the window. The sea stretched out before her, blue and beautiful and absolutely alive, in a way most humans would never understand. "We have a word for it now," she said. "We call it Gaia, not as a metaphor or a goddess or a spiritual concept, as a name, the name of the creature that we are all part of." "Does Gaia think? Does it have consciousness?" "Not in the way we understand consciousness. It does not have thoughts or plans or emotions. It has instincts, hunger, protection, survival. When the Draconians arrived, Gaia sensed a threat to its cells, to us, and it responded, just as your body responds to an infection. White blood cells do not think. They simply act according to their nature. Gaia is the same, but on a planetary scale. The keeper floated closer. Why are you telling us this now, after all these years of secrecy? Professor Shin turned to face the silver sphere. Her eyes were tired but clear. Because the galaxy needs to understand, not as a warning, not as a threat, as a plea. We did not choose to be part of this organism. We did not ask for this protection. We are prisoners of our own planet just as much as we are protected by it. She sat down heavily in her chair. Every time someone invades Earth, thousands of aliens die. Millions. They are not killed by weapons or soldiers. They are eaten by the ground beneath their feet, dissolved by the air they breathe, consumed by the water they drink. It is not a battle, it is a feeding. And you feel responsible for this. How could we not? Professor Shin's voice cracked. We are part of Gaia. Its hunger is our hunger. When it feeds, we benefit. Our crops grow better. Our people live longer. Our planet thrives. We are rewarded for every death. Tears ran down her wrinkled cheeks. We did not ask for this. We do not want this, but we cannot stop it. The interview continued for several more hours. Professor Shin explained the biological processes behind Gaia's feeding, the research that had been done to understand its limits, the failed attempts to communicate with the organism directly. She held nothing back. When the interview was finally broadcast to the galaxy, the reaction was chaos. Some species refused to believe it. They called it propaganda, a lie designed to intimidate potential enemies. Others became obsessed with finding a way to kill Gaia, to sterilize Earth and free the humans trapped within the creature. A few religions sprang up, worshipping Earth as a god and seeking to visit the sacred planet. But most species simply added Earth to their list of forbidden places, a dead zone in the galactic map, a planet to be avoided at all costs. On Earth, life continued as it always had. People were born, grew old, and died. Cities expanded. Technology advanced. Generations passed. The truth about Gaia became common knowledge, accepted the way people accept that the sun will rise and the seasons will change. Some humans struggled with the knowledge. They felt like parasites feeding on the deaths of others. They wrote poetry about their guilt and composed songs about their sorrow. A few even tried to leave Earth permanently to escape their connection to the organism. But they always returned. Earth called to them in their dreams, in their blood, in the very atoms of their bodies. They were part of Gaia, and Gaia was part of them. Decades passed, then centuries. The galaxy evolved around Earth, rising and falling empires giving way to new powers and new alliances. But Earth remained constant, unchanged, eternal. Occasionally, some foolish species would ignore the warnings and attempt an invasion. They always failed. Their bodies would join the countless others that had come before, absorbed into the soil and the sea and the air, returned to the cycle, fuel for the endless hunger. And humanity lived on, the children of a living planet, protected and prisoners all at once. This was the horrifying truth. This was Earth. And this was home,